Despite playing Fallout New Vegas for going on 15 years now, I've never had any desire to complete the Dead Money DLC. My first encounter with the side content was accidentally entering the Brotherhood bunker, thinking it was just another lootable area, fast-clicking through the very stark warning, only to be chloroformed and kidnapped for my troubles. Now, in my elder years, I'd love this, and probably would have stuck it out, seeing exactly where this chance encounter would have taken me. But as a 14-year-old up at 3 a.m. with school in 4 hours, I was not too thrilled to have been ripped from the Mojave so viciously. Since then, perhaps just being scarred from this teenage experience, I've always avoided the Sierra Madre in every playthrough. No exceptions. Well, except now. So, what even is Dead Money, and how are we going to get out of this? Well, firstly, you can't take any companions, so sadly, hoodless Veronica here will have to go back to a lucky 38. We enter the bunker, go for our ceremonial gassing, the intro music starts, and I was pretty impressed with these slides. This is a style I hadn't seen in 3D Fallout up till this point. I'm not a huge fan of the modern games, so I can't make deep comments on their design or anything related to their artistic prowess, though I have beat 4 and played a little bit of 76. However, being developed by Obsidian, it feels as if the DLC's intro is a callback to the clandestinely themed art of the older games, where hyperrealism and absurdity were the focus. I like it a lot, despite it retaining some of the poppier feel of the more relevant Fallout art. The intro explains, without its septum being deviated, that the Sierra Madre is a luxury casino and resort, designed to be the opening centerpiece of an equally luxurious and surrounding villa. However, the night of its opening, with all its famous and influential guests in attendance, the bombs fell. Well, China attacked Fairbanks with a tactical warhead or something. We don't really play the whole, we don't know who scorched humanity, blah blah blah. It was China. The first game pretty much confirms it. Anyway, we wake up here, in the town square, across from a marble and old world looking fountain. Inside the fountain, and doing his best Wizard of Oz impression, we find an impatient and projected blue head waiting for us to regain consciousness. This is Elijah, the Brotherhood of Steel Elder before... I mean, we don't know who this is. We don't know who this is. Yeah, I mean, I understand these had to be written with all possibilities kept open, minding the fact the player, even if they had interacted with the Brotherhood in the vanilla games, might not have any context or understanding for who Elijah is. But our courier here has been chilling with Veronica the whole game. I mean, you just saw her. So despite pretty much being fully aware of who this guy is, and even knowing a thing or two about his interpersonal relationships, we're unable to call him out for it. Instead, I decided to just start being obstinate immediately, and because I didn't even think this would be an option, we become super bratty, refusing to cooperate with the kidnapper. This is when it's revealed to us that we're in fact outfitted with an explosive collar, and here for entirely malicious purposes. Choice, if we even had any to begin with, ultimately irrelevant. Still, don't wanna. He gives us a lot of fair warning. Eventually, however, if you decide to mouth off enough and give the old man the straight up business, he will just explode you. And it sends you back to your last save. Gotta go get gassed again, I guess. What a day. Going back in, sitting for the intro again, and arriving at the fountain, I suck it up, inquiring a bit more about the purpose of my being here. Elaborating on what exactly I was exploded over, Elijah gives us a bit of history on the Sierra Madre, explaining its purpose for pre-war vice and the ultimate technological advancement it represented, mainly for its security measures and just the pure scale of the thing. And, lacking the resources and clout, I know how that feels, he's been unable to find an adequate way to access the trove of pre-war information. He's not really clear about what he wants out of this, not yet anyway. At any rate, he reveals we're not alone in this favela, pointing at 3 waypoints on your Pip-Boy which he gloats pretty hard about having access to, and instructing you that each represents an individually skilled and capable specimen, required for his ultimate plan. And what is this ultimate plan? Well, we're expected to break into the foreboding structure looming to the right of the elderly visage, cracking right into the heart of the Sierra Madre's infrastructure. Ourselves, along with these aforementioned specimens, having been unwillingly contracted to perform this apocalyptic B&E. Yet, it's not set to be all sunshine and old-world felonious behavior. No. There is in fact a hint of danger on these once pristine streets. Danger in the form of mutated and, confusingly, immortal creatures only referred to as ghost people. Apparently possessing the ability to regenerate limbs, which no known ghoul or even super mutant has demonstrated the capability, these creatures are a stark anomaly in a world of nothing but, making them highly dangerous and time-consuming to fully destroy. Even Elijah, or at least so he claims, I honestly honestly have no idea with him at this point. There's no clear answer on their origins. Following our brief pep talk, there are a few more vagaries and frets. Elijah warning us that our caller is ultimately connected to the three others and are operated on a very susceptible low-level frequency that is prone to interference. Meaning, if one of the four, ourselves included, die on this excursion, then it spells certain doom for the remaining three. Before sending us off and snapping into the void, Elijah makes a suggestion on who we should contact first, a schizophrenic super mutant named Dog, relaying that he'd be the most likely, and willing, to follow our instruction. And, following that lengthy intro, we finally pound pavement and set off for our first quarry, Dog the Mutant. On my way over, I naturally check my inventory, realizing to no shock at all that my weapons and other associated gear have been lifted off my person, leaving me with only a hollow rifle and basic set of Madre-themed clothing. The hollow rifle, while not the worst if your energy tag is high enough, is in poor condition, and at this stage in the game, we will mostly find ourselves using it to disable these precariously placed speakers, which, while we're in the range of, have potential to cause interference of our callers, risking an untimely detonation. This is where I notice, keeping with the theme of whack and decaying frequencies, that my radio is abuzz with 3 new stations, representing one of the 3 captives we're now tasked with recruiting. I give each a brief tune-in, Dogs being the most active and just filled with psychotic babble, Dean, the once famous and now residential Sierra Madre ghoul, mostly complaining or blasting his own music, and the third remains confusingly silent, and that's where I forgot they existed for the rest of the playthrough. I assumed they were a bit more relevant than I gave them credit for, but survival soon became the precedent, and I pretty much memory hold the feature. Arriving at the Old World police station, we find Dog posted up alone in a large holding cell. He calls out to us, but soon becomes preoccupied with what he, repeatedly, describes as an overwhelming and persistent hunger. Aside from the thick iron bars housing the super mutant, Dog is also surrounded by several loud and blaring speakers. Entering the first of the building's subterranean levels, we trigger a spate of pre-recorded and timed messages. A disembodied voice, this time not of Elijah, begins to command us through the corridors, insisting that, as we go, he is in fact the alternate of the imprisoned and mentally ill super mutant upstairs. The voice further insists, if we desire to have any sort of meaningful or rational conversation with this beast, we must summon this alternate, a hollow tape recording, located in the building's lowest level, being enough to reverse this potentially dangerous regression. Grabbing the tape, we head topside and play the recorded command, triggering Dog to vanish completely, leaving us with a rather articulate and obviously highly intelligent super mutant, only referred to as God. Get it? God, while clearly expecting Elijah's presence instead of our own, explains his isolation, claiming it to be self-imposed, both for purposes of preservation, along with rebelling against the status quo of being inside the open-air prison that is the Sierra Madre. This fella has been here a while, acting, or rather being forced to sit back and watch Dog act as a sort of servant to Elijah's ends, even claiming, in his more lucid state, that he was more than likely the one who brought us here. He also swallowed his bomb collar. I'm not sure which personality made that choice. The guy has a lot going on, honestly. After going in circles for a really long time, using intelligence and speech checks rather liberally, and receiving nothing but the same obstinance from the mutant as Elijah first received from me, I understand his frustrations now, Guy confesses in a moment of MCU supervillain tier bragging that he could in fact leave this cell at any time he, meaning God, wanted. You see, to thwart Dog and give himself a specialized failsafe, God, right before inducing the episode we found him in, taped the cell's key to the back of his neck, knowing that, while Dog may find it, which he hasn't up till this point, he wouldn't have had the context to know what it was if he had. Smart. Not so smart to just tell me, though. I guess there was the impulsive angle of the whole disassociative thing. I don't know. Of course, as we're at severe risk if we don't, we use this information to our advantage, telling God that if he refuses to cooperate, we'll just have Dog come out, via our access to the newly acquired holotape, and just tell him about the key ourselves. God pretty much hates us for this, obviously wishing to be divorced from Elijah's control, even if it is being channeled through us. We're not Elijah's lackey, though, and our own risk of perishing is quite high, if not certain, if we don't make the decision for the both of us. Ultimately, through text tree prompts, we launch into the audio, drawing out Dog within mere moments and instructing him to use the hidden key to free himself and join our party. He's more than willing, confusing us with that of what he refers to as the Master, Elijah, and promising his total obedience while we allow his freedom. We actually have a few choices which I believe impact ongoing interactions throughout the DLC, one of which is to be mean to Dog, which, let's be honest, no one wants to be the one to do that, and neither did I. So after pretty much assuring Dog that he's got a friend in me, we head off to find our second quarry. On the way over, coinciding with the Wild Wasteland perk, which you always gotta pick, Dog starts doing this to the ghost people. That that boy sure is hungry. Though they've become pretty dense in this area now, especially since releasing Dog, I don't find myself having too much to say about these guys. Their origin, being connected to that of the orange and pocketed gas we observe around the villa, is perhaps the most interesting part of these enemies. They mostly just annoy me, as you have to dismember each of them if you want them dead, leading to me being thankful for my maxed out strength stat, and pretty much turning this into a knife spear only run, maybe until the last hour or two of the DLC. Arriving on Dean's side of the tracks, we find the area to be jerry-rigged with bear traps and explosive ordnance, causing me to nearly die several times and forcing me to save scum through this area in particular. Reloading each time I take damage, as aside from the several 3D printer-esque vending machines, which require collected, digitized recipes of the healing items you need, there is no great way to regenerate health. Now, this is a great detail and probably one of the coolest prospects in regards to this DLC, but ultimately they're really only expanded on through the terminal notes. They do come up in a significant way during the endgame, but we'll see to that soon enough. At this point, I also realized just how vast each cell in this DLC is. Most of the buildings, save for a couple, you can enter and interact with at will, leading to a very isolated and almost overwhelming feeling. Scattered information regarding the resort's past conception and permanently delayed opening can also be found in these residencies as well. Finally, with a little help from Dog, we reach Dean's choice of dilapidated shacks and enter, finding the old ghoul upstairs peering out of his window and relaxing to the radio. He's aware of who we are, in a relation to Elijah's newly concocted scheme, at least, and invites us to have a seat next to him. I think this is a trap. I mean, this guy nearly killed me at least 5 times on my way over here, so I'm pretty certain it is, actually. But we take him up on his offer and crash next to the ghoul, and no way. The chair is actually a rigged explosive. I've been had this time. Now at Dean's mercy, he begins to sort of explain his own role in the Sierra Madre's opening, telling us that he was a contracted singer for the resort and a pretty big deal before the war, as well as a silent investor of the head honcho Sinclair, who built this place along with the monolith hanging over it, as a testament to love, of all things. He's about as vague as Elijah, but a bit pointed about it, indicating that he has much more to hide than even the old man does. Furthermore, Dean was the only one of the 4 who actually chose to be here, at least for a time, until Elijah showed up, indicating much deeper intentions outside of some loyalty to an old friend's legacy, or even the desire to possess material wealth. We eventually convinced the once famous singer to join up with us, having him disengage his homemade explosive and instructing him to meet Dog and I at the main fountain so I can recruit him. Dog, while powerful, kind of has a one-track mind when being thrown in front of hostiles, and density of the ghost people can really increase in the time it takes the mutant to finish devouring even one of them. Grabbing Dean and telling Dog to stay, the Ghoul and I set off to collect the final piece of Elijah's plan. Christine, found at an old and similarly abandoned medical station, getting to her is kind of a breeze. Also, mistakenly, this is where I began to underestimate the DLC as a whole. For now, once inside the ruins of the once well-maintained medical facility, we find that Christine has suffered a great deal of trauma. Her skin is bisected with long and deep scarring, indicating lengthy and perhaps highly painful surgeries, or even experiments have been recently conducted on the woman. She is also unable to speak due to these injuries, explaining the abject silence her personal radio frequency had been emitting this whole time. She doesn't take too much convincing to drag along. Her stasis probably leaving her a bit confused, and her memory of this place still more than a little choppy. We tell her to head back to the fountain, not too far behind ourselves. Dean and I make the best of friends. His perk pretty much makes this gas thing a non-issue. Fantastic. I'm sure it will always be this way from now on. Arriving back to the fountain, after some dawdling and exploring, Elijah seems impressed that I've managed to wrangle these exceptional individuals, and with a bit more whimsy than his post-kidnapping riot act, he calmly explains to us our next step. Staging. Everyone assigned to a particular task and location to do it in, each specialized and uniquely tailored to their, at least how Elijah seems to interpret it, individual strengths. And staging for what? Well, the casino never officially opened, and being fully automated and mechanized, had a programmed countdown clock within its internal computer system. Meaning, since the bombs fell before its grand revelation, even the automated systems are stuck in a sort of time loop, waiting on a massive gala, as it's referred to by Elijah, that would never end up coming. He tells us that we've come this far, and despite our current willingness to abide by his manic rules, he really has no qualms about scrapping us, starting over and doing it the right way. Something tells me he's just bluffing now. The option of defying him is still present in the dialogue, though. But I like this misfit group and would rather not risk their lives, and more importantly, now that we're all together, the reality of Elijah's dead man switch as well. Before blinking off, Elijah once more tells us to attend to Dog. his step having the potential to be the easiest as well as the most time-consuming, meaning we need to do it first. Speaking of Dog before heading off, the Ultra's confusion only seems to be growing. While earlier, due to his failing and FEV-corrupted memories, Dog believed myself to be an incarnation of Elijah. Seeing the old man in the fountain once more has shattered his conception. Now realizing who we are, he explains, in a childish sort of manner, that he alone has been trafficking individuals to this hellscape, all on the orders of the Master himself, confirming what God had told us earlier. We can observe some scattered bodies, former residents of the wasteland, several of which wear familiar and Mojave-themed clothing. From this alone, we can pretty much determine Dog is telling us the truth, his former and now forgotten allies becoming permanent fixtures of the Madre's otherwise empty streets. Brushing aside this uncomfortable possibility, and saying the magic words, Dog joins our party, and we head off for his odd job. We enter a new area of the villa now, one a bit wider and spread out conceptually, but even denser in terms of how many ghost people populate its space. I believe this was more in line with a shopping district, as opposed to the residential and sort of crammed together villas seen while gathering our team. Arriving at Dog's job site, we soon realize this version of the mutant is far too incompetent to perform the task at hand, flipping the breaker here requiring both a feat of strength as well as impeccable timing. Not really wanting to, as I assume he's going to be pretty pissed off at us, but realizing my total lack of options, I boot up Dog's command tape on my Pip-Boy, awakening the reasonable, yet now enraged, alter God. Per my prediction, God is not too keen on having any sort of discussion with us, our early betrayal of him now a grudge in his mind. However, as a thinking, man, he realizes his last chance at resistance disappeared upon my dragging him, or rather Dog, out of that cell. Coming to terms with this reality, God agrees to help us, requesting one thing of us first. Meat. Ghost people meat, to be more specific. God, while highly educated and put together relative to Dog, still feels his same burning and insatiable hunger. If we, at least ethically and without totally lying to him, want God to go through with this, we're going to have to procure him a bit of meat. We agree. I really have no health at this point, and long ago resorted to chugging irradiated waters just to skim what little HP I could. So this takes a bit of time, requiring us to kill more than a few of these guys in order to pass the bar. Collecting what probably amounts to a few pounds of ghostly flesh, God seems satisfied, agreeing to the conditions of Elijah's plans. Myself sort of now being put in the position of arbiter to Elijah's psychotic machinations. Just what I always dreamed of doing. Jaunting on back to the fountain, we grab Dean next, not really having any type of trouble at all until arriving at the ghoul's rooftop destination. This is where, sort of surprisingly, at least from what I've made this guy out to be in my head, Dean flat out refuses to do this, claiming the part far too dangerous and even degrading. He doesn't want ghost meat, but he does want some of them cleared out of here. Dean has seen the gala more than once before, claiming the old man to have indeed gotten this far on a couple of occasions. He knows, for a fact, the streets will fill with every ghost imaginable upon its triggering. This is where I probably messed up with Dean. With my speech being high enough, we're able to basically threaten and coerce him into staying on the roof, acting as our spotter. I do not have nearly enough health for these fights. I pass every check with flying colors, Dean agreeing to stay on the roof and out of sight despite the growing presence of the undead. Now, for the final time, we find ourselves back at the fountain, Christine being our last delivery of this phase. We speak with her a bit before heading out, my high intelligence stat and medicine skill allowing a greater range of dialogue with the mute woman. We even get her to smile a bit, more than once. It seems we're developing with Christine what I thought we would have with Dean before he turned all baby mode on us. After a few more checks and some one-sided banter, we take off for the electrical substation, basically the Madre's beating heart, finding the journey to be far longer than the previous and taking us a significant way across the map. This was by far the toughest section for me, as ghosts seem to be grouped up in this area, several of which are lobbing highly effective gas bombs in our direction, forcing me to finally splurge on a couple of stim packs at a nearby machine. Once we enter the substation, the first floor security mechanisms are entirely defunct, with a completely decommissioned generator at the issue's core. This took me far too long to figure out, as each component required to rig up the old world tech is scattered throughout this very expansive area, contained in small and very easy to miss toolboxes. Walking the villa streets, poking my head in wherever I can, I do learn about the Sierra Madre's conception a bit more, along with some unsettling information about Dean. Apparently, while the creator of this massive complex was a lifelong businessman, his intentions here did not relate to pure financials. Instead, in a mad sort of way, he commissioned this engineering, in our architectural marvel to be a love letter to a once promising actress named Vera, who Dean actually earlier commented about associating with before the war. Dean, however, seemed to know the woman a bit more than implied. Several interpersonal communications and notes indicating both of their involvements in something nefarious. Something apart from standard infidelity or even personal dissatisfaction. Eventually, though, sparing you too many more details, we do collect each required part, allowing us to bypass the automated door and giving Christine access to the station's mainframe. Well, sort of. Once inside, to no one's apparent shock or surprise, Christine also has reservations about moving forward. As it stands, the main access point happens to be contained in a facility even deeper underground than we currently find ourselves, and Christine has some serious anxiety about finding her way out of there once the gala is in full swing. We have the option to lie to her, however I find myself caring about Christine, especially since we bonded a bit. I agree to search for an alternative, quickly finding a nearby terminal and once more using a boosted science stat. You always gotta go in on those in the early game. I'm able to reroute the master control of the station and set it to our current location. Christine is satisfied with our efforts, agreeing to hop on and play her part in this final stage of the heist. And that only leaves us to worry about. Leaving the facility, we sprint toward our specific waypoint, located atop a large and imposing local clock tower. Now, with the bow drawn back, we let the arrow fly and officially open the Sierra Madre. We don't have much time to enjoy these festivities, though, immediately exiting the tower and dodging past the promised swarms of ghostly inhabitants. Reaching the gate, we are once more at the point of no return, our actions from this point forward determining if we'll even leave the casino at all. Inside the resorts, we observe, at least for a moment, that each member of our team has also made it, their unconscious bodies sprawled throughout the main lobby. This brief reunion is cut short, however, and we soon find ourselves passed out and in the exact same position. After some time, we wake up, and we're completely alone. Not really sure what to make of this new predicament. I kind of just wander around collecting chips until Elijah pipes in for the building's intercom system. He explains the Madre's security system, its programming in a sort of stasis, used pre-uploaded material to determine where each of the team belongs, assigning a particular space for the free based on who it believed, according to the builder's instructions, they were. With a fourth spot apparently not drafted into the resort's coding, we find ourselves to be the odd man out, stuck once again attempting to get the power in this place functioning, the internal breaker apparently overloading with the gala's massive energy output. We grab a few keys, violate a few holograms, and eventually get this done within 15 minutes or so, the extra time added due to my blackjack addiction briefly taking over and forcing me to locate a table, which I did eventually find. We get the power on, and this is the absolute happiest Elijah's been this whole time. He doesn't even try to hide how impressed he is with us at this point, our kidnapper nearly sounding grateful at our performance. All that's left now is to find the vault's passcode, which Elijah believes our team is already in possession of, and head underground. First, probably to my own detriment in editing, I played blackjack for what felt like an hour, but really, I think it amounted to like 20 minutes, lost everything to the hologram, and left realizing I should have just been buying supplies this entire time. Once in the lobby, Elijah just cuts in again, alerting us that Dog, or God, or both I guess this time, are in the kitchen and having a spirited debate on whether or not they should blow this entire structure to pieces, the mutant having been able to access the building's decrepit gas lines. We race over, finding only the back door of the restaurant accessible, the gas leak triggering the main set to automatically seal in order to contain the fumes. Getting inside, Dog has almost had enough of God's futile pleas, readying himself to flick a concealed lighter and destroy everything. We're meant to sneak around the kitchen, God keeping Dog occupied long enough in order for us to safely render each gas valve inert and disallowing Dog's early departure from the Sierra Madre. However, since my sneak is pitifully low, yet my speech is exceptionally high, we can just walk up to Dog ourselves, check him a couple times, and instruct him, as we have been kind of a source of comfort up to this point, to get some rest, go to sleep, and have God take over his executive functions. Dog trusts us enough to do it, ceding full control to God and lolling off for the rest of the DLC. This is the last time we'll see God, his interest however being treasure or really pre-war tech, but the desire for internal peace. For now, at least, he has found this through our actions here. With this, I head upstairs and into the guest rooms, keeping my eye out for Christine and avoiding this hollow lady here, who will straight up ruin your day if you underestimate or even walk within her sightline. Eventually, through the maze of rooms and doors, we locate Christine in the room once belonging to mystery lady and object of affection Vera Keys, who was actually the hollow lady I just mentioned, trapped in a consistent and recorded loop, it being the last evidence of her time at the Sierra Madre. Well, except her body, which is also here. Christine can talk now too. An autodoc meant to keep Vera doped up and alive in case of an overdose from said doping up. Our most trusted ally, at this point, was able to program it to perform rudimentary surgery on her throat, yet, by her own admission, something is off. Her speaking pattern and cadence now eerily similar to that of the Madre's main radio signal. There's no time to revel in this apparent accomplishment, though, as we find ourselves yet again rushing to another section of the Madre, this time the Tampico Fader, where, at Elijah's instruction, we will find and possibly kill Dean Domino, who has become unresponsive since locating the vault's passcode. Inside the Fader, we quickly locate Dean, who feels no compunction about just flat-out confessing to his intentions now. He admits while everyone else assumedly performed their function at the gala, he himself was already halfway to the Madre, almost inside the gates as the door became unsealed. Yet, like everyone else, he was knocked out. His planting in the Tampico was due to his residency as the resort's mainstay performer. I'm not very impressed with Dean at this point. His opening attempt on our life, the lead up to the gala, and now this. Still, I feel like I'll need all the help I can get downstairs. So, flying completely blind, we begin speech-checking the ancient singer. Still, it doesn't advance very far, Dean instead challenging us to come take his information for ourselves, firing up the showroom's localized security. Since we already grabbed the backstage key on our way in, we slip past the guards and into Dean's dressing room, unlocking the safes and finding a couple of important pieces of information. Eventually, accessing the final layer of the ghoul's security measures, he relents, speaking to us, revealing his plan and answering a few of my questions. He admits that he was going to double-cross me all this time, us nor our companion's presence being anything unique to him in the course of his 200-plus year residency here. He planned to double-cross the Madre's creator even, the man kind enough to give him and his washed-up career a second chance with his highly anticipated building project. Even plotting to use Vera Keys, the woman of this man's dreams, in order to strike at and deceive him out of everything. You see, Vera was a drug addict, as evidenced by the state of her room in the presence of that autodoc, as well as several chems. Vera's voice, perhaps going against the founder's better judgment, was also the passcode to the massive vault lying beneath us. Not just a string of words or anything like that, but Vera's voice itself. Dean originally attempted to perform surgery on Christine's voice box, yet failed, leading to her becoming a complete mute and having no memory of the interaction. Or at least that's what I think happened. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of unsure about this. I'm sure somebody will explain it in the comments, but I couldn't even find a consensus for it on the wiki, so that's just where we're going to leave this at. I believe some of Christine's injuries were also sustained before the Madre, and Dean, being inexperienced but just needing her alive, simply fixed them up himself. I don't know. This kind of makes me mad. Dean hurting Christine, I mean, not the confused writing. And I decided that Dean probably isn't worth saving anyways. I don't have the option, as I believe threatening him earlier on the rooftop pretty much turned him against me already, despite the fact he would have taken off regardless of tending to his needs or not. So, in an act of both futility and just general frustration, I deprived Dean of his 200-year-old plan, along with the oxygen in his lungs, and send the disgraced singer packing. It's all good now. All smooth sailing or whatever. Just gotta head back up to Christine, who seems to be the only one interested, aside from myself, in actually getting out of here. This is where we come to the conclusion that her voice has been in fact altered into sounding like Vera's, though we don't really tell her that Dean was involved in that process, nor do I think we should really. Christine and I exchange a few parting words, agreeing that she should likely stay topside, tending to the digitized aspects of the plan, while I slip into the vault itself, finally accessing its riches and more importantly getting us out of here. We perception check her real quick, though, and she does come clean about her full intentions, insisting she's been tracking Elijah for years at this point. This kidnapping plot nothing compared to his other crimes against humanity, and just all life in general. We assure her, if she just fulfills her final task for us, we will lure and stop Elijah ourselves. She just, has to work with us, continue trusting the process. Christine, thankfully, is far more reasonable than Dean, if not also a little remiss at allowing us the glory she so clearly seeks from Elijah's demise, and she uses her expertise to access the elevator's door, allowing us to begin the heist's final phase, the vault's infiltration. We get downstairs, and it's more of the same, dodging holographs, flicking terminals, and getting stuck on very simple tasks that I really had no business being stuck on. We get to the vault door, and oh, wow, there's gold in here. Like, there's actual heavy and expensive gold. I'm actually kind of shocked by this, and I'm not even really excited. Just kind of surprised. Like I said, I never played through this before and assumed the gold was sort of just a portal tier cake trap where my greed and expectations would be obliterated. But nah, it's just real gold. I grow about 5 bars, or high strength status supporting the excess weight and allowing me to make off of a pretty significant bounty. Intelligence at 9, strength at 10. The geek shall inherit the earth. Now, all that's left to do is to confer with Elijah, inquire about our way home, and maybe, possibly, see the old man's annihilation. To his credit, he's pretty over the moon at us and actually compliments us as much as his clearly narcissistic mind will allow him to, and tells us we got some ingenuity and drive behind us. He also offers to answer more questions we may have, his victory seemingly now ensured, so what does he care? We have a couple. First, what does he really want with the Madre? He clearly does not care about this heap of pre-war treasure, not once referencing its existence, not even now, and showing no clear concern toward us coveting as many bars as we can carry. Well, the founder, and this seems to be a theory of Elijah's more than anything, built this place as a sort of hidden in plain sight bunker. It withstood the war, and now, after 200 years of brutal conditions, stands almost pristine in comparison to anywhere else near the west coast. Elijah wants this fortress for himself. His intentions to raise and unleash an army from its confines, using the vending machines as a sort of infinite item processor, using weapons, healing items, food, anything he needs can come from these vending machines, or at least so he claims. One more thing, I guess, as I found myself here talking with the old man for almost a half hour and I had to kind of cut out a lot. What about the orange gas? The ghosts. Surely the two are connected, as these creatures are observed to be all but immune to the orange miasma. Well, again, this has to do with the builder. And also he lied to us earlier, by the way. Elijah lied to us. He knows about the ghosts. A rich man, but not a stupid one, the builder sought out a plethora of investors for his project, Mr. House of Robco being one of them. Eventually, an institute and company associated with what's called the Big Empty took this opportunity and provided the desperate founder a nice cash injection for the small price of chemical storage and development, all to be done at the resort's deepest and most underground points. This is what Elijah states spiked his curiosity in the Madre to begin with. In his perspective, the gas being a tool of cleansing, a way to disinfect life itself. Okay, come down here, boy. Elijah refuses initially, forcing me to run down a plethora of speech tree options, all of which lead to various checks that I cannot, at this time, complete. This is, until, of course, the undisputed goat of all of New Vegas once again rears its head. A speech check, and I can pass it. Yippee. We tell Elijah to get down here again, but in a smooth, coy sort of way. He agrees that, since he and I have pretty much carried this entire plan together, that we should finally meet. His access to my collar still giving him a bit of confidence, despite him not knowing that down here, the interference causes a very generous delay and would allow me plenty of time to escape before it went off. So we wait a bit for Elijah, the option which I found hilarious and that I really wanted to do, and probably the best for future interactions that I'm fairly certain I'll have upon leaving the Madre. We have the option to trap Elijah down here forever. I do have a singular stealth boy from earlier on. I think maybe I got it in the jail. So I guess that's some real delayed payoff there. And before he makes it into the chamber, I activate the spy gear and head out of the vault, sneaking into an adjacent hallway and watching as the elderly man's confusion turns to absolute rage once he discovers my deception. He spurgs a bit, sets off our collar, the lower level begins to collapse, and we run out of the basement before he's even halfway through his evil speech. And with this, we find ourselves back at the fountain. No one around. Totally alone. Even the holographic Vera keys from earlier are absent. It's kind of creepy. There are ghost people in the distance. I hear them, but they're far off, taking no notice of our presence in the courtyard. I hesitate a bit. Is this really it? The collar is off. I guess I have the gold still, but it's just, over? I wanted to say goodbye to my friends, or at least Christine. Oh well, she's a smart lady. I'm sure she'll be okay. And with this, we exit the Sierra Madre on a sadder note than I would have liked and head back to the Mojave. Vera, or now Christine's voice, thanking us for our stay and leaving us with a sort of touching sentiment about starting over. I recommend finding it for yourself, honestly. It's a nice little piece. Exiting the bunker's main room, we find the once locked and impenetrable door down the adjacent corridor to now be wide open. It's inside well lit and appearing to be a lab of sorts. This was Elijah's hideout. For how long, I'm not really sure, but there is a holotape here. Locked, labeled for Veronica. Hey, we know a Veronica. Heading over to the Lucky 38, we find Veronica posted up in the suite, flat out telling her upon our arrival that we have made contact with Elijah. Shocked by this, she demands to know where and why and what is even going on. We confess, because lying to Veronica is wrong, that we are forced to trap her once trusted mentor inside of a futuristic underground vault that he will likely never, ever escape from. And if he does, there are a lot of ghost people to contend with, along with Christine, who, as the game wrapped up, was actually revealed to have taken on an almost custodial warden-type role for the casino. God was fine too, and Dean, as we know, died. I even reloaded a few saves to help him. You didn't see that, but there was no dice. I messed it up way too early. Veronica, chewing on this info, confesses that she can't exactly feel anything too strong one way or the other. Elijah being dead to her, and probably the rest of the Brotherhood upon his untimely departure from their clan. We give her the tape. She tells us, after a brief listen, that it comes out as a little more than nonsense, really, only functioning as a goodbye to her. And with this, Veronica gains another perk. I was wrong in my last video, and now this one is over. My thoughts on Dead Money? Aside from the weird difficulty spikes and plateaus, I think I need to play the other DLCs before reviewing this one fairly. I mean, they seem sort of interconnected. Whoa, a series? Get real. You really thought I played the other ones? I've played Tactics, but I've never played any of the Fallout New Vegas DLCs. I am the absolute worst kind of fan, and this channel's goal is to prove it. Thank you for getting this far if you did. Wow, my voice isn't so bad after all, huh? How about you go watch me ghost hunt in Fallout 2 next? Or maybe you liked Hoodless Veronica and would like to see me help her out some more. Click the videos. Do it. I also got a backlog of shorts, 86 out of 88 of which are Fallout related. Find the 2 that aren't, win a prize. This took so much effort to make. Goodbye.